Okay, so I was not expecting to be filming today. I was supposed to be doing this Instagram live, but things happen and that is okay. So, as you may have noticed, I am not in my apartment right now. I am at my parents' house because my apartment is about 80 degrees and they are fixing it. It is actually fixed like right now. So I just got the notification, but I'm just gonna go ahead and film this and then I'll head back home. You didn't really need to know that, but I am tired, but I'm really excited about today's topic because I think this is something that a lot of singers get stuck. And so I think, you might have your materials together, you might have your hosting site, but just knowing what to do once you get those is a totally different ballgame. So I just wanted to share some of these things with you, and I just want to put a disclaimer after this video. It's probably going to feel a little vague, and that is because there's not one way to build a website. There are so many different things you can do with it. Materials are all different, people are different, photos are going to change things a lot. And so this is really more meant to be a guide for you, just to get started, just to kind of know some steps to take and what to expect when you start to build a website. So these are really my opinions on hosting sites and ways to go about doing this. So if it doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. You don't have to take it. And if you still feel overwhelmed, like you don't know what to do, I offer free consultations. Just contact me at elephontwebdesign@gmail.com and I'm happy to help you. So the first thing I want to let you know is that the first video is up on elephontwebdesign.com. I have a section on that website where I will be posting all of these videos for you to look at any point. So if you miss any of the live talks or you just can't find them, you can always find them on there. It's through my Scrappy Mezzo YouTube channel, and so you can find the last week's video in either of those places. So I will be sure to link those again once I finish this video. So getting started, choosing a hosting site. So a hosting site is basically like the land that your house will be living on, and your website is like building your house. So this can be things like Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, and Godaddy, which are the 4 that I will be talking about today. These are just the 4 that I feel like are used the most, or that I hear about the most as far as what other people use. And I haven't used all of them, but what I did was I went in to each of these websites and I basically just started building a website. My main concern is how easy is it for you to use? Can you get started right away? And then my personal preferences are how easy is it to have creative freedom if I want to change something. And so that is just my perspective, but I really tried to take this from your perspective, where how easy is it to build a good website? So I'm going to talk about GoDaddy first, and this is my general feel for this hosting site. I've never used GoDaddy before, but my general feel for it is that it's a great hosting site for building your first website. You can start building for free, just make an account. And basically what happens, you'll start typing in what kind of website, and they will automatically give you a template to start editing. So I think I just put in music, and it just went ahead and gave me a template and to get going. And I tried to look around, and so there is an option for a try a new look, and it's a button, I think it's at the top right. And it gives you a list of other layouts. And what I thought was interesting about the way that GoDaddy does it is they give you all of the layouts, but using the same materials and color scheme. So you can see, I would be curious, I didn't try this, but I would be curious to see if you used your own headshot and your own color scheme, if it would give you that layout, those different layouts with your materials. But I would be very curious to know. So I thought that was a cool feature of it. Let's see. So for example, the one that they gave me, it was one picture of a singer and then the color scheme of hot pink, white, and black. And that's what it was on all of them. Another thing they do is they give suggestions for font pairings. I typically don't advise more than 2 fonts. So I think this is a great feature because you don't have to think of it. The pairings weren't my favorite. They're not really what I would choose. Some of them, I'm not really sure why they're chosen together, but if you have something that you just don't want to think about with that, then you can totally use that option. But the general gist of the website is that they give you suggestions, automated suggestions, and then you can make that suggestion your own by changing the color. You have everything in little cells that are nicely spaced out for you, so whenever you do put something in, it's already going to be nicely spaced. A downside for me personally, and this is, maybe there's a different way of going about it, but for audio, it seems like you had to have a SoundCloud account in order to be able to use, put audio on your website. I don't think I have a SoundCloud account. I usually upload my stuff just by the MP3, so it just depends on what you have. Their pricing, the domain I think is free for the first year, and then after that it looks like it's about $17.99 a year. It just depends which, as far as domains go, that seems like it's one of the higher sides of it. And then web hosting is about $8.99 to $11.99 a month, depending on what plan that you use, and that, I think that's a great price. So I would definitely recommend this for your first website. There's not a lot of options to, have that creative freedom that I'm looking for. But it is easy to navigate, and it's pretty intuitive as far as how to upload your own things into that template. So I think it's a pretty good start. WordPress, I tried to go into WordPress, but you have to pay first before you can build a website, and I'm just not a fan of that because I want to know if I like to use it before I pay for something. So even if they give you money back on that, which, I would hope that they would, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that. And I see a lot of things about hosting your WordPress site elsewhere. So not on WordPress, but I know GoDaddy has some kind of partnership with them. And so that just seems unnecessary to me. I just would rather go to one account, and there's my website, and that is also my hosting site, and I can have everything there. That's just what I prefer. It's definitely the cheapest option though. There's, it's like $5.99 to $9.99 a month. It's mainly like a blogging website. So we singers need something a little bit more advanced. If we just have blog posts on things, that's a totally different animal. So another thing that I found with it is the tutorials on YouTube are about 1.5 hours to 2 hours long, regularly. The first 10 hits, you're going to see a lot of tutorials that are well over an hour, and maybe 2 hours. And I looked at the other sites just for comparison, and their longest sites are like 47 minutes. And most of those are like 20 minutes long for the other hosting sites that I mentioned. So it just seems like there is a general gist in the community of people that have WordPress sites or that are trying to use WordPress, that it's a difficult format to use for a beginner. That's someone that doesn't know a lot about building websites, and it seems like you have to have a little bit of coding to change things around. So for you guys, I'm just not a fan for that. If you are someone who enjoys coding and that sort of thing, then go for it, try it out. It's definitely your cheapest option. So Squarespace. I have used this website once. Paul Winkelmann's website on elephontwebdesign.com was designed with Squarespace. And something that I generally like about their format is that it's going to be very clean. Everything is going to be spaced out for you, and you don't really have to do a lot with that in mind. This is another one that you can begin designing for free, so you can find out if you like it. And it begins with a tutorial right away. So that's kind of a nice way to get a feel for it and kind of shorten that learning curve. They also give you font pairing suggestions, and I like their pairings better than Godaddy, but they only have serif or sans serif options, so there's nothing with script or whatnot. The serif, a serif font is something like Times New Roman, where if you have like the T and it's got the little lines on the side, those are called serifs. And then sans serif is without serif, so it's going to be something like Helvetica or Arial. That's all that means. So it's just only those two kinds of fonts, and there's nothing with script. And for me, I like to pair different kinds of fonts in that way, and so it just depends on what you want. So try it out, but I do like their pairings better than GoDaddy. You can also choose colors. They give you a pre-suggested palette, and so you can either go off of that palette and change the colors from there. You can do it from an image, so you can upload an image and they'll give you a suggestion in that way. Or you can do it based off of a color. You have a color in mind and you want to see what goes well with it. And if I can remember correctly, they do it, excuse me, I'm so sorry, by color theory. And so you know those colors will complement each other pretty well. They're not going to clash. I tried doing the from an image option, and I used the same image twice just to see what would happen. The first time it gave me, I think it was like this terracotta color and navy, which is a palette that I love. And if I was in my own apartment right now, I would show you that those are the colors of my living room. So, you know, for me, that's something that is like a perfect combo. And then I did it again, and it was that same terracotta color and then like the color brown, which I thought was weird. So I uploaded a different picture to one of my green dress pictures. The first one was where I had a white shirt and like black pants and a white background. And then I was trying to see if it would put some green in there if I uploaded a picture where I had one of my green dresses on. And it gave me the same color brown, and then the pink that was the exact same color as my lipstick. So take the from an image thing with, take it with a grain of salt. I do think you should use your images to choose colors, but maybe just not on Squarespace. I don't know. I think that's more for more cinematic looking photos than your headshot. So it just depends. Let's see. Oh, you can use coding to add other features into the design, but they do have a disclaimer that their team has limited ability to fix anything on your site. So I don't expect you guys to want to do that, but just know, I wouldn't suggest it. Don't mess with it. For video, all you need is a URL, so it's pretty optimal to have YouTube or a Vimeo account. For audio, you can either add a SoundCloud block or add an audio block, but there's two different ways to get there. And I would rather kind of either click in the space that I want to add something in, or go to the side and say I want to add audio, and then I can choose what kind of audio that I add from there. So I think that's kind of confusing and unnecessary, but that's just the way that Squarespace is set up. But it isn't too crazy to get to the audio block section. You'll just have to play around with it. Okay, so your materials will be nicely spaced, but you don't really have options for sizing once you get into your template. So the domain is going to be about $20 a year from what I could find, and then $144 a year for the basic plan. And some of these pricings might not be accurate. So this is just kind of what I found right off the bat. So, you know, don't take my quotes verbatim. They might have sales, they might have discounts, like, you know, they might have a different plan that you want to use. So it depends. Lastly is Wix. Wix is what I use the most. I've used Wix for years and it's changed a lot over the years. So I highly recommend this website, even if you're a beginner. All you have to do is set up an account and you can start building for free. It'll give you two options to use Wix ADI, which is basically like a smart site builder, and it'll take your materials and kind of give you a suggested layout, but you can opt into that. The other one is where you can choose a template and choose which template you want to edit and just go from there. But the thing that I like about their templates is they can really just be used as a basis of inspiration. I've used templates in the past. Now I just go in and use a blank page and let my imagination go. And I prefer that way, but that's me as a designer. That's just the way I prefer to do it. And even if I do use a template, that doesn't mean your website is going to look anything like the template, because there's so many different ways that you can change things. So if you want to make something bigger, you can make it bigger. That's totally fine. Like there's no rules on Wix, which I love. Anything you click, you can move around. It'll generally, it depends on what you use. If you have like individual audio things, you do have to space things out yourself, but they have a lot of different grid lines and lines that kind of help you line up your materials. So, you know, even though it doesn't automatically do it for you, it's super easy to line things up. It's not difficult at all. So if this is something, if you're using Wix and you're having trouble with something like this, just let me know and I'm happy to help you. Their domain is free after the first year, and then it's $14.95 after that. And then their combo plan, which is what I typically suggest to first-time website users, is about $156-ish, depending. They have 50% off sales a lot. So I actually just saved 2 of my clients money because I bought them their plan on one of these sales. So they didn't have to pay as much money as I originally quoted them, which is always good news. I know this is something that Wix does, but I don't know if the other websites do it. I'm sure they do it to some extent. But to purchase a private plan for Wix, there's a public plan and a private plan. The public plan is free. The private plan is $10.26 after tax. And basically that just means that your account won't be spammed with a bunch of different things. And that's like mandatory. I highly suggest. Otherwise it's just like anybody can get into, you just do the private plan. Just do that. It's only $10. If there's anything else on here. Oh, they also have a 14-day money back guarantee on their premium plan. So if you have a plan that you're like, this is too much, I don't really need that, and you decide within 14 days that you don't want that, then they'll pay you back that difference, which I've never had to use, but whatever. Okay, how to style your website. If you guys have any questions, please just post them in the comments and I will respond to them. Usually if this was a live talk, then I would answer them as the chat is going, but we don't have that right now. So you have all your materials, you have your hosting site, you basically kind of figured out how to use it. So I'm gonna give you kind of some jumping off points. If you don't like it, don't use it. If you do like it, try it. Okay, so I'm going to advise 2 basic layouts. Your first layout is the 5-page layout, which is pretty standard. And this is the layout with the home page, the bio, the media, contact, and gallery or schedule. I would rather you have a schedule on there than a gallery, because if you don't have a whole lot of pictures, then there's no point in having a gallery. But this just means that there's one feature per page. So your home page is going to have your headshot and then like Kaylee Nichols Mezzo, but with your name and voice part. Your bio page is just going to have your bio on there, and so forth. So that is the easiest one to set up. But if you don't have a lot of pictures, then I would recommend this option. It just takes a little bit longer to set up. This is the scrolling page layout. So it's all of your materials just on one scrolling page. And your menu is going to work with this thing, at least this is what it's called on Wix, as anchors. And so when you click the contact button on your menu, it'll automatically scroll down to the bottom of your website where your contact page is, and just go ahead and take you there. So it's just set up in a little bit different format, but if you only have like a headshot and like one performance photo, this is a great option for you because it allows you to have all of your stuff in a way on a website that looks very professional and well put together. And there's lots of different ways that you can style it to do that. So if you don't have a lot of pictures, I recommend that option. And if you need help setting it up, I'm happy to do that. And then the 5-page layout, which is way easier to set up, but does generally do better if you have more photos and things like that. You don't have to do as much graphic designing. So those are just my suggestions, but like I said, you can always choose templates and choose templates that work for you. That's pretty much on any hosting site. So the other one is photo. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, that was it. That was all of it. So my next thing is look at your photos. Take a stock of what kind of photos you have. Do you have a lot of horizontal layouts? Do you have a lot of like vertical or portrait type photos? Kind of see what you have and decide which ones you want to use. The horizontal options the high quality ones are really great options for page layouts, page backgrounds, because they're going to be the same format as your computer screen. So it just tends to match up really nicely. Portrait, the vertical ones, can be good options for like bio pages and contact pages and little features here and there, but they get formatted weird when you put them as a page background. So that's just something to think about. You don't have to put a photo as your page background, but just something to keep in mind. I personally advise for you to use your headshots and publicity shots for websites. They're typically higher quality than your performance photos, and you have more control over how you look. Because especially when you're singing for smaller companies, your performance photos might be really grainy because someone's either just taking them with an iPhone or just like not a very nice camera, and if you have performance photos at all. So it just depends, but you know that your headshots are going to be a nice quality. So that's why I advise people to use those and to kind of plan to use those for websites and social media, because you're going to have consistency throughout your website and it just tends to look more aesthetically pleasing. If you do have high quality performance photos, then absolutely use them, because it's a lot of times they look awesome. Like a lot of times performance photos are super fierce and you can just make yourself look really good and you're like, this is what I can do on stage. And if they are a high quality photo, I absolutely think you should try and use them. So I will say that if you do use publicity shots, just make sure that you can easily be found on stage in those performance photos, because you don't want to put this giant picture of like this giant set and this entire chorus, and like you can't easily find you on stage, because that totally misses the point. That's just people on stage. A company, that's a fine photo for a company to use, but not you as a business. You have to advertise your business, so just keep those in mind for using performance photos. Just make sure that you can see the performer, which is you. Yeah. So colors, take a look at your photos. Are there colors that are consistent along your headshots? Those are usually great colors to kind of use as a starting off point. You don't have to only use the colors that are in your headshots by any means. Like I said earlier, if I used the colors that are in my headshot, I would have brown and the color of my lipstick, and we don't want that. So, I mean, if you want that, that's fine, but I don't want that. So take a look, just use that as a starting point. Another thing that you can look at is if you don't have a lot of photos, base it off your main headshot. And if you're not really sure about a color scheme, I would typically go with like 2 to 3 colors to start off with. Like, don't go too crazy. You can look at Pinterest for inspiration for color schemes. If you're just kind of like, I don't know what I want, you can look at that for inspiration and do something with that. You can also just stick with like black and white and like one other color. That's a really easy thing to do to still keep things interesting, visually interesting in your website. But I would say don't go too crazy with too many colors, because if it's not well done, then it can take away from you. Instead, even if it's not conscious, there can be this subconscious thing of like, okay, what am I looking for? I'm not really sure. So it's easier on the eyes. As long as you keep it simple, it'll be easier on the eyes and easier to find your materials, which is the whole point of building a website, right? But be creative, have fun with it. Think of it like kind of like decorating your room. Make it something that represents you, and something that is nice to look at, and something that makes you proud. So play around with it and have fun. Font, I don't suggest any more than 2 fonts. I have 3 on my website, but I only use 1 font for my logo, and that's it. I have 2 fonts for a heading and the context in the body paragraphs of like my bio and things like that. But there is ways to make two fonts give you a lot of options. You can have 2 different font families. So let's say like, I'll use Helvetica as an example. You can have a light version where the letters are much skinnier and a little more faded away, I guess. But they're just a lot thinner and cleaner. And you can also use the bold options for those fonts. And so it doesn't give you just 2 options. You can totally do a bunch of different things with that. So that is why I say that, to keep it simple for you, but still keep it interesting for your audience that is looking at your website. Any other materials? So a pretty standard place to put a resume on your site is at the bottom of a bio page. That's where I've seen them the most. I've also seen them on contact pages. It just depends on what you want. I say, why not both? But I do think it is a great option to have your resume ready to download, especially now, because people can just go and look at it already. If you have materials like a resume and a repertoire list and reviews and like a downloadable headshot or something, you can put that all in the same file and label that link as a press kit. And that just gives all of your materials to your employer, and that's a really easy option to do. But I see that more with managed artists than I do with younger artists. So I would say just start with your resume and make sure that your headshot is on your resume, just in a little box up in the corner, and that is just going to make it easier for everybody involved. And then just make sure anytime you have to update your resume, you update that on your website as well, which is another talk on how to maintain and upkeep your website. If you have any questions, I know I kind of blew through a lot of this because I'm filming this on a video instead of on an Instagram live. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'm happy to answer them. You can also email me at elephontwebdesign@gmail.com. And if you would like a consultation on your materials, I'm doing those for free. So you can do one of two things with that. You can either just send me your materials and be like, okay, where do I start? Here's my hosting site, here's what I'm looking for, and just we can use that as a jumping off point. Or you can try your hand at building a website and you can show me and say, ta-da, how is it? Something like that. Or if you want to know what I would do better or things to tweak it that would make it easier, I'm totally happy to do that. So please contact me if you are interested in that kind of thing. And if you still feel overwhelmed, then I can help you out. So like I said, these are just my opinions. If you don't like it, don't take it. And if you really want to try it, then try it. And just see what works for you, because there's not really a lot of rules on building a website. It's just your materials have to be easy to get to. And that's really the only requirement. So make it something that you're proud of and get your hands dirty and just try it out. Don't make it as intimidating as it can be, because it can be pretty overwhelming. So next week we are going to talk about upkeeping your website, maintaining it, making it something that is sustainable for you, and just other things to think about. So stay tuned for that. And thanks so much for watching this. If you were waiting for Instagram Live, I'm so sorry. I don't know what was happening. So yeah, so thanks guys. Have a good day.